Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am so excited. I wanted to talk about memberships with the group for a long time, but I kind of felt that I have no experience of actually running a membership program, and I felt it would be, well, unprofessional. It wouldn't really be with integrity for me to come on and do a live with you and have no experience. And so I know someone who has lots of experience. And so I said to the Mr. Phil Jackson, which you can see to my side here, could you come on and share with us about how salon memberships work? Because I sincerely believe this is the way forward for the industry. If I went back into ownership without a shadow of a doubt, I would have a membership program. But then the question is, how do you run it? What do you put in it? How do you control it? And Phil Jackson is the man to answer all those questions. So I am super excited to welcome Phil to our live today.
Ta-da! Here I am. Thank you so much for having me, Caroline. It's lovely to be here talking about my favourite topic in the whole wide world. And it's great that that people like you are standing up for memberships, because I think you're right. I think there's a place for memberships in every salon, and certainly I think it's starting to be taken a lot more seriously in the industry. So thank you for that.
Excellent. So let's just start with a brief who we are. So I'm going to pop this on as a solo so that you can all see the gorgeous picture of myself and Phil. And I'll introduce myself, and then I'll ask Phil to introduce him, and then we can find out why memberships, where did he start with them? So for me, I've been in the industry since 1991, which makes me feel quite old. I then went and spent 10 years with Steiner. And then I worked with Saks Hair and Beauty as a regional director. But I started training and working with teams and salon owners in 1999. And now that's all I do. I focus really on training teams. So Phil, do you want to now introduce who you are? Where's your
Yes, of course. So I've been in the industry since 1999, and I feel terribly old as well. I think anytime I talk about anything that happened in the last century, I automatically feel completely ancient. And I was an arrogant little sod back then in 1999. So 2 years later, we opened my salon. I was going into business though with my partner, who's now my husband, and he'd been in the industry a lot longer. So it wasn't quite me going out on a limb. And bear in mind that 2 years, most of that I'd been a trainee. I wasn't even qualified. And we were doing okay, to be honest. We weren't setting the industry ablaze or smashing any world records, but we drove nice cars and had nice holidays. And then everything kind of came to a crunch for me when we adopted my eldest son. Yes. And I'm a big planner. I'm someone who loves a new notebook and a new pen. And I'd planned to take 6 weeks off from the salon. And I love this industry. When your clients start buying into your life goals, I love that. And my clients were really happy for us. And then my little dude, who is such a hero, it became very clear that 6 weeks wasn't going to be enough for him to settle down. And in fact, it became a condition of his adoption that I take 6 months off. And it nearly killed us, because I was one of the big hitters in the salon and taking lots of money. And that was when we realized that we didn't have a business. What we'd done is created jobs for ourselves, well-paid jobs for ourselves. But I think my definition of a business is you should be able to take a step back and at least break even. And we weren't at all. And in fact, we got to the stage where we had that lovely phone call from the accountant. So I would say, if the accountant calls you at home, it's not going to be good news.
That's never good.
No. And she said we had 3 months left. And that was 3 months to lay off the team, sell the stock, try and get someone to take over the lease. But what it did, and I refused to let go. I wouldn't let the business go. And what it made me do is, and it's a cliche these days, isn't it, to work on your business, not in your business, but it made me work on the business. I had no choice. I had to find ways of contributing to the business without physically being there, because I couldn't go to work.
Yeah.
And memberships were a big part of that, because where I struggled was with the financial planning. We couldn't plan for anything because we had these massive shifts in our turnover from month to month. And what memberships have done for me is kind of smooth those peaks and troughs a little bit and give us some predictable income. So we knew when we'd be able to afford to invest in the business or recruit or replace equipment, that kind of thing.
And I think that brings me probably nicely on, which are the questions that I wanted to sort of find out from you, is the sort of, why did you introduce it, which obviously you've just explained. You've got to that point where it's like something has to change because this just isn't working as it currently stands. And like lots of people, when you get tied into the I'm in the business all of the time, it makes it so much harder to actually work on the business. So the next question that I really wanted to, I suppose, find out from your perspective, having had memberships now for such a long time, what benefits, what difference did it make to your working hours, your planning of your time and your profits?
Oh gosh, that's some big questions. I think that, well, the first thing was that it bought us some time. It bought us some breathing space. It meant that we weren't starting from zero every month. We were starting with the money in the bank. So all of that, I call it the first of the month anxiety, where you're kind of sweating a little bit when all the direct debits are coming out and the rent's got to be paid and all those good things. And all of that first of the month anxiety is gone, which is an amazing feeling.
I love that whole point of I've signed enough people up into the program who are committed to the salon. And on that first day, I can just go, the bills are paid without having to have that anxiety, like you say, of looking at, say, what is this week like? What is next week like? And oh my God, the week before payday, it's dead. Are we going to hit the figures? How am I going to pay everything? Or worse, getting to that point where it's like everything else has been paid, except the person who's done all of the work and made all of that hard commitment.
Absolutely. And we're at the stage now, so the memberships in my own salon now make up between 20 and 25% of turnover every month. And that covers all the fixed costs. So the rent, the rates, all of the utilities, everything's paid first of the month. And my absolute favourite is when the first of the month falls on a Monday, because we don't open on Monday, and all of those costs are paid without us even unlocking the door. That feels really good.
I can imagine. So I'm going to pop this one up on a little slow. So this is one of the slides that you happily shared, and I thought I would keep in. So for you, it's now 5 years?
5 years. So 2014 we brought the memberships in. 2015 I won the Most Wanted award because we were the first direct debit membership program in the UK. And all the fixed costs are paid. But I think that last statistic there, that 95% retention year on year, the customers love it. And this is the key to memberships, and it's where I see most memberships going wrong. Is they make a membership which doesn't appeal to the customers. Actually, I'm going to make some big, broad generalizations now. The beauty guys are better at this. They tend to be better at building membership programs. The hair guys try and include stuff that customers don't want. They try and put unpopular services in there. The problem is if you start putting unpopular services in, you end up having to discount, and this is not about discounting. It's not discount clubs. In fact, my members are the ones that contribute the most to my business. They're my biggest spenders. So I'm very keen that it doesn't turn into a way of discounting our services.
Or like you say, building a membership where what is included is just not attractive to people because then they're just not going to purchase.
Where this all came from was actually gym memberships. I was at a local networking event, and I love industry networking, but local networking, a bit of me dies every time. I just hate it. But I was sat next to a guy who ran a gym, and it was very rarely these days. It was a local independent gym. It wasn't part of a chain. And I was trying to find something in his business that I could take back to mine, and it was the memberships. It was that recurring membership income that was really appealing. But there's a big difference. The gyms rely on the fact that we join and don't turn up. If everyone turned up, most gyms couldn't handle it. And I was very keen that it wasn't that. It was about amazing value for the customer and an amazing win for us on that recurring income. So I don't like the idea of people signing up and not getting the value.
No.
So that's the big difference between us and the gyms. Is I want my members in a lot, getting the most out of their membership program.
Absolutely. And I love the fact, like you say, that 95% retention with those people, because that is the key, isn't it? There's no point in bringing these people in, delivering something wonderful, and then they just sort of fade and forget us. You want that reoccurrence, because then you can reduce your marketing, which helps to reduce some of your costs, which increases your profits. And it just has that whole knock-on effect. You're not having to spend time trying to find these new people to keep coming into the business.
Absolutely.
So with that, do you find that you're not having to market the salon as much? Or do you
We
find that
don't.
you've got a balance?
We don't market the memberships at all now, and I think we're going to talk about software a little bit today, I'm sure. So some salon software supports memberships in a very obvious way. Some software doesn't, and we've got some manual kind of work to do, some manual workarounds on that. Our salon software doesn't support membership, so that 20 to 25% of turnover, that's about as much as I can handle. So we don't market memberships at all now. In fact, most of the packages that we have are sold out, so we limit the number of memberships that are available at each level. As far as marketing the salon generally is concerned, yeah, we still do some new client marketing. We certainly focus a lot more on loyalty and retention than we do on new client marketing, though.
Absolutely.
It's and what you've hit on is an important point, is the memberships aren't for everybody, and they shouldn't be for everybody. It's a different, in my mind, it's a different customer avatar.
Excellent. And I find that so interesting, because it is that balancing, isn't it, between I'm just going to pop us back onto a double one there. It is that balance, isn't it, between how many do you have, and having it limited does give it that sort of, if you don't buy the membership, then you might not get one, because once you hit that number, having that limitation is a great selling key.
It's I think a little bit of scarcity, but also it was born from a place of fear, which is not a great way of making business decisions. But we had, back in 2014, 2015, we had nothing to copy. There was nothing out there. So it was my way of saying, okay, we can take a chance on this, but we can limit our exposure. So if it doesn't work, we'll talk through, year one. Okay. Oh God. So we had 4 levels of membership, which I wouldn't recommend at the start at all. I think keep it really simple. And then the top level of membership, we had, see where I went wrong here. You could have as many haircuts as you wanted. Fine. You could have as many color services as you wanted. A few T's and C's, but yeah, that was fine too. And you could take as much retail home as you wanted, included in your membership. Seriously. And we put it out there. We only sold 5 in that first year.
Well,
and I had visions of people coming in with Tesco's trolleys and just clearing my shelves, and all my stock would be down the car boot on a Sunday. I was so scared. But we limited it. We limited it to 5. And also in that first year, you couldn't sign up for membership unless you'd been a customer for a year. So they had some loyalty. They weren't there to see us go bankrupt. And it's certainly anyone who's thinking about membership. So I would say get something out there, however ugly it may be, and then just limit the numbers. And test it. Let the market tell you what you need to be changing. But until it's out there, you just don't know. But very quick, oh God, my heart, I can feel that tension now. It's about 2 weeks in, and I thought, my God, what have we done? But it was fine. There was only one customer who did take the mickey. And that was because our salon's in a very wealthy town, and she's one of our wealthiest customers. She has a home in Newbury, she has a flat in London, and she has a villa in South Africa. And every time we recommended her a retail product, she would take 3, one for each bathroom. So I had to say to the guys, look, when we're recommending products to her, can we just keep recommending the same stuff, because this is costing us too much money? She was the only one who probably pushed it a little bit too far the other direction. So it was a lucky escape in year 1.
But you had the controls in place, and that's the important thing, isn't it? It's figuring out where could this be a threat, and then just making sure you've got something in place to keep that to a limit. I'm going to pop another slide up here, Phil, and I'd love for you to explain a little bit more about what this sort of shows and explains to
This is what we were up against. So that green line, that's the average takings per month. Okay, so the blue line is the average, and then the green shows you how far our turnover in percentage points was swinging away from the average month by month, and that was the average over 3 years. So look at February, that was 30% below average, averaged over 3 years. Literally, we had, what, 2 average months, January, which was a surprise to me, and August. And everything. This is why it was so difficult to plan. And literally December and May were keeping the salon afloat. That was the only thing that was keeping us going and paying out those quiet months. So that was what was making the financial planning so difficult. Was we just couldn't, it felt like we were continually running up overdraft, paying off overdraft, running up. We were never getting ahead. And that's what I wanted the memberships to do. So what it's done, I mean, we still have peaks and troughs, don't get me wrong. We still have good months and bad, but it's a much more gentle curve now. We don't get those massive swings in turnover anymore.
So this was that
This was kind of where we started. Now, I don't have an after graph, but the February in the following year was about 5% below average. So it had taken that massive 30% swing and taken the edge off it for us, which was huge for us.
That is a big change, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to flip to the next one, but I can't remember which one I've put up. So let's just have a look and see where we
How exciting.
So, now I get an idea. Sort of, we've talked a few there, sort of the do's and don'ts. So, like by having controls and making a limit, so that as you get started and you get your feet in the water, you've got some control. What else would you sort of say are those key do and don'ts when you're looking to set up a membership program?
I think the first thing for me is to keep it really simple. So I wouldn't, in year one, I would not do tiered memberships again. I would come up with just one thing, maybe even built around one service. And I'm pretty much guarantee if anyone's, if you've got this far into the call, that you have a service in mind, someone's got something in mind, and I would build the membership around that. The big don't for me is don't discount. There are lots of reasons why people would sign up for a membership, and discounting is not one of them. Don't get me wrong, it has to make financial sense.
Yes.
Even in my salon, we're the most expensive salon in our town and always will be. And even those very wealthy customers, they need to see that it makes financial sense for them. So you can't just charge anything and it be a number that you've plucked out of thin air. But it's not it's about adding extra value in. And it's the biggest the breakthrough for me was identifying that we had a slightly different customer avatar for our memberships. It wasn't the same as our general average customer, because you're asking for an increased spend and an increased level of loyalty, and that's not for everybody.
Yes.
And also, I think a big learning for me was to disconnect from the result a little bit, because I have customers to this day that it would make perfect sense for them to be members, and they don't sign up, and they will never sign up. And I've got no idea why, and they're still loyal customers to this day. But just to disconnect from that a little bit and say, actually, it's not about the membership. It's just that they don't want to do that. And that's fine too. There will be people that never sign up, even if they could save a fortune. And I have a laugh with people every year and say, look how much money you could have saved over the last few years. They just don't do it. So disconnecting from that a little bit and not seeing that as a slight against what you've built. Leaving room to upsell, and we can talk about upselling until midnight if you want to. But that was the big error in that top level, was that we had nothing left to upsell. And of course I target my team on upsell, but they had nothing left because everything was built into the membership. So I wouldn't do that either. Not trying to put the unpopular services in there, we've mentioned already. So it's if you want it to be a big part of the business, you've got to go for the stuff that most people would want and enjoy. And once you have that customer avatar, I would say tap into what they want from a membership. So I said, there's lots of reasons why people would want to sign up. In the same way as we're smoothing our income, we're also smoothing their outgoings.
Yes.
And there are some people who, for example, in a hair salon where you're maybe visiting every 6 weeks, by definition, you have an expensive month and then a cheap month. And for some people, that's, it's not easy for them to budget. So there's some people that will sign up just for that, just so they're paying the same every month. So it's not about, we're not financing here. It's not about spreading the payments. But there are some people that will smooth their outgoings and see some value in that too. For me, it's about exclusivity. So it's our club is very much limited numbers, and those members get something that other customers don't get. So we have some products which are only available for use with them. Instead of getting a text message on their birthday, they get something through the post every year. So we built in those kind of exclusive benefits, and my club members like feeling that they're part of that. So once you've got that avatar clear, then you can figure out the best way of adding value for the customer.
So I think I'd like to ask just with the sort of that do's and don'ts, because it's something that I'm quite hot on with what I do with teams, is that you're really looking at then your clients who are very much loyal. So you're not going to be there with, it's the second time you've visited the salon, let's talk about memberships. It's about looking and picking and selecting the right clients. Is that a fair thing to say?
It's certainly in year one you had to have been coming for a year, and that was so that I could show you your pattern of spend and show you how the membership would make sense for you. Right. We don't have those restrictions anymore. We don't ever have anyone sign up on the first visit. No, it's usually you've got to prove your worth. So normally I would say the sweet spot on a new client for us would be about visit 3. So there've been a couple of times they know that we do a good job and we do services that they enjoy. Then that would be when we would start talking to them about memberships. But actually, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there. The members, we don't target our most loyal, most frequent customers. So if you can kind of imagine, we've got a continuum from 1 to 10. So you've got the 1s and 2s are the ones that tart around a little bit and go to other salons and aren't necessarily loyal, or we've got some customers that come to us for a restyle and then go somewhere else for a trim for 2 or 3 visits. Oh, some people do, and that's fine too. We're not going to exclude them. Yep. And you're never going to turn those into members, so we ignore those. And then the 9s and 10s are the ones that are frequent. They're in the salon all the time anyway. We don't target them either. What we target is our 7s and 8s, because you're seeing an increase in loyalty. Well, if you've got someone who's already loyal, that's kind of we wouldn't say that they can't join, but they're not the ones that we would necessarily target. So it's about getting those kind of top end of average and then just pushing them up to the 9 and 10.
Yes.
So that's kind of how we run it.
It's that being able to, if you think of that, I used to use someone called Toro, who would do analysis of figures, and we'd have it as a pyramid with that sort of your top spenders. And then as you look down through the levels, you were always looking to take those lower levels and increase their frequency and their spend. And it would be that sort of level that you would really be focusing and targeting towards.
Yeah. So it's the ones that they're not quite top level, but we're just going to nudge them up into that top level.
Absolutely. So let me have a look. On my little slide, I'm going to pop it up for us now. I'll pop it on so then we can actually see it. So one of the things, obviously, I think it's really important to talk about with anyone who watches and thinks, it's something I need to do. From a legal side, from a setting out your terms and conditions, is there anything particular that people should be aware of or that they should do?
Yes. So we swapped 2 haircuts for a solicitor to read over our membership agreement, and I strongly recommend you get some kind of advice. I'm not a qualified lawyer. I'm indemnified to give legal advice, so I won't give legal advice. But as far as I've just put a list on that slide there of the kind of main things that you want to look at. So the term of agreement, we have generally our memberships are 12-month agreements. It doesn't have to be. I've seen 3 months, 6 months work as well. And I've seen rolling open-end agreements, which we don't do, but it's something you need to get really clear in your mind at the start. Cancellation is a big one. My understanding, as I say, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is if you don't allow someone to cancel, that is no longer a membership agreement, that becomes a consumer credit agreement. Right. And a consumer credit agreement attracts a whole host of legislation that you don't want to get involved in, because you have to register as a credit provider, and that costs money. And the paperwork that goes with consumer credit is huge, which is why there are now specialists out there that will set up credit agreements for you. So we have to. No. So, but the key to it, of course, is what you don't want is people joining, getting all of the benefit in month 1 and cancelling in month 2. So you need a mechanism in there to allow people to cancel. And it took us a little while to come up with that, but we've got it. We nailed it in the end. Shared memberships, you've got to stick to your guns. When you first get memberships out there, people will say things like, well, I don't really use that service, can I swap it for this service? Or I'm not in that frequently, can I share a membership with a neighbour or my sister or whatever? And you just no, we don't go there. I tried really hard to come up with a family membership. It's almost impossible. Families are too diverse, there's too many shapes and sizes to be able to do that profitably. So ours are all solo memberships. Auto renewal was one that didn't come in until year 3. So we used to write to everyone at the end of their year and invite them to renew. Now we don't. We write to them a month before the arrangement ends. We tell them what the fee is going to be for the next 12 months. And if we don't hear from them, it just rolls on to another year. Actually, our customers preferred that, which was interesting. Professional advice, we've already spoken about. So yes, get someone to look over your agreement. It doesn't need to be, I don't think you need a solicitor to write the agreement, but I would certainly get someone professional to look over it for you. And then Signable, I've put at the bottom there, which is the piece of software that we use to get our agreement signed.
Now let's talk about then software as that comes in. So Signable, how does that work for the
Signable, you upload your agreement as a PDF, and then you can email or give the person a link to that. And then we've all had agreements that come through this way where you kind of sign it with your finger on the screen. So we use that because our Salon software, even though it has lots of forms that we can upload, it won't have signature space, so people can't actually sign those forms. So we use Signable for that. There is a fee with that. I think it's £1 per agreement, but you can either email the Signable contract out, or they can sign it in Salon in front of you. So we use that piece of software as a standalone.
Excellent. So then let's stay with software. So I'm in my salon. I've got whichever booking system in play. Can they all work with memberships? Is it improving? Is there anything else that's coming up that would make it easy for a salon owner to be able to go, right, I'm doing this, press a couple of buttons and we're off and we're running?
Okay. In my mind, for salon software providers, there's kind of 2 tiers. You've got the cheap and cheerful and freebies, and then you've got the premiums. As far as I'm aware, in the cheap and cheerful, there's nobody who will support memberships. Right. It doesn't mean you can't do memberships, because actually when we get to some of the premiums, there's some of them that don't support memberships either. So the big ones that do, Shortcuts do, and have done for quite some time. Salon IQ are building it right now, and I'm helping them with that. And that should be ready and built in by the end of the year, and they're going to do it properly because they spoke to me first, which is amazing. I have a rumor, and it is only a rumor, that another big guy, who I'm not going to name, is beta testing their memberships in Q3 and Q4 as well. But the software that we have, so I'll be open and honest, we have Forest in our salon, and they do not support memberships currently. But it doesn't mean you can't do memberships. You just have to be a bit clever with it, and that comes down to the way that we take payments, which we can talk about too.
I'm a great believer in, where there's a will, there is a way. It's
of course.
Having to figure out what can I do rather than, well, I can't do it. It doesn't work.
What I would encourage anyone to do, though, if you're thinking about memberships, is to speak to your salon software provider, because the more people that mention it, the more likely you're going to get it built into a future version. So I encourage everyone to make lots of noise about memberships in those early stages, just to prove that there's demand there.
Yeah, well, if there's demand, then they'll put the work in that goes behind the scenes with the programming, coding, and then it becomes much more easy for everyone to use this within their salons.
Absolutely.
I'm going to pop on then to my next little slide that we've got and see what your sort of thoughts are. So your slide that I'm using is the bigger picture.
So this is just kind of where I wanted people to just broaden their thinking around a little bit. And some of the big changes that it's kind of brought into the salons that I'm working with is if you're increasing loyalty, and that's what we're talking about. Is I don't like the phrase tying people into an agreement, but when you've got that commitment, they're going to be with you for the next 12 months. Increasing loyalty means bigger profits. We've touched on upsell, and upselling is huge for Salon members, which we're not spending our time hunting for new customers, and we can start getting paid properly, sometimes for the first time in a lot of businesses. And I put, in bold there, bringing back the buzz, and it feels like something very fresh and very new, because it isn't something you see in every town, and you will, I suspect, be the first one to make a lot of noise about it. And if you're a bit like me and you make enough noise, you will always be the first, and anyone else who tries to do it will look like a copycat from the start. But it does feel like you're bringing that kind of new salon buzz back. Steadier income means that we can start planning financially, no more anxiety around paying those bills. And it's just easier to enjoy your salon when it's growing. It's easier to enjoy a business that's profitable and secure, and a bit less stress, and maybe even some better sleep. I think that's got to be worth a try, surely.
Absolutely. And I think, you touched on something there with that sort of getting the buzz back of being in your business. I've said in the past that, when you first get those keys, there's an excitement, that rush of like, I'm doing it. I'm not just talking about it. I've signed the lease, the keys are here. And then we can get into that, right, okay, now roll up the sleeves, let's get going. And then when you get further down the line and you have, like you saw showed in your charts, that sort of like, February is that sort of like month, and you go through those phases where it's just, I've just about managed to pay everything else off, and I'm out of the overdraft, and now we're going into that next quiet month, and getting rid of that is just phenomenal.
I think that we're part of this the creativity in our industry is just incredible, but the way we do business is so boring, Caroline. And it's just time to start having some fun with it again and doing something that's a bit different. And I think what happens is we feel unstable financially at some stage, and we start doing what everyone else is doing. Well, but I'm going to start ranting now. Brace yourself. Right. My own finger in the wind straw poll is that 70% of salons either break even or worse. I think there's about 30% that actually make some money, which is so depressing.
Heartbreaking.
So you would actually have a better business strategy to look at what most other people are doing and do the opposite. You'd have more chance of success than copying other people. So let's just break the mold a little bit, look at a different way of doing business. And the one advantage you have as a small business is you can change stuff really quickly. So we can, I've done some consultancy work with Shortcuts and Forest and some of these, bigger companies, and to try and to get a decision and something to change in those businesses takes so long, because they've got to go through 3 levels of committee and, get sign off from someone who's not in for another month. We can change stuff like that. And if it doesn't work, we can change it again and again. So we need to get that. And that's what I mean by that new business buzz, is that ability to react and change and try stuff and have some fun with it. And that's what I'm trying to get back to with memberships in salons. Sorry, I get very passionate about that.
I'll get my little soapbox as well, because it's heartbreaking. And, you always see that sort of same cycle of, I go from that buzz to the, oh my God, what am I going to do? Firefight, throw out a discount, do some kind of crazy promotion, which often, if you look at, has no profit margin, which means that, people came in, but actually what they put in the business isn't going to be enough to actually help us make any money. And I'm going to have to now replace that stock and pay the staff. And I'm still not moving any further forward. I'm just literally treading water, hoping that I'm the salon that keeps its head above water, and I'm not the one that drowns and is the one that closes down. And there's too many people going bust. Really,
absolutely. What I think the worst bit is it's not right salons. It's not the ones that have got lousy standards and don't train, and it's good salons that are closing their doors, and that's when it gets really depressing. And I think, I'm sure you see the same. Is, a salon starts to struggle, and it's the owner that ends up working harder and harder and harder, and then we wonder why business isn't fun anymore. The team's not taking the strain. It's literally just the owner running out of time, and they run out of time to run the business and grow it. This is the sad thing. They're doing too much service.
Yeah, completely. And what I tend to find as someone who works mainly with the teams now and developing team success is that the more stressed that owner comes, the more they'll sort of focus on the people, these teams, right? and it becomes then that vicious cycle, because then they'll lose good people because of
Mm.
the way that they're leading, and then they come shackled to either that chair or that couch because I'm the only one who's generating enough money to keep the doors open. But then you've got these potentially superstars that are just sort of, you know, standing around rudderless, waiting for someone to lead them forward. And I think just membership in that, having that no anxiety, first done, money's in the bank, and I know I'm secure. I'm going to throw
Absolutely.
up that next slide for us. Let's have a look at this. Whoop, let's put it on solo. There we go. So how do you work out your price? I know we've talked a little bit there about how discounting is not what this is about. And then I wanted to really ask, this was the sort of opportunity you see with upselling, because in my experience, when someone is paying for something in advance, that mentally they forget what they have actually paid, and they're more open then to say, I'll take an extra or I'll take more retail, and it gives that opportunity. Is that something that you see with memberships?
Yes, absolutely. And you're very clever to have put those two things on the same slide, because the two are entwined. The opportunity to upsell, I can never say it, so I will try. It's called the law of reciprocity. There you go. And the law of reciprocity basically says that if I give you something and you feel like you're giving me something back, that psychologically is an uncomfortable state for you to be in, and you will try and regain balance by giving me something. And because you don't feel like you're physically paying for your services on the day because you paid for it through recurring card or direct debit, it is much easier to upsell to members, and that's in terms of retail and additional service. So the opportunities to upsell is huge. That also then feeds into the way that we price. Now you can, how much time have we got? Because I could go all day on this, but you can make,
as long as you like.
cool. You can do the pricing bit first, and this is what we did. Okay, so my poor husband, I went into the salon, and it was October, I think, one year, and I said, I want to charge £100 for a haircut. And he said, well, you can't, because at the time I think our haircut, most expensive haircut, was about £65. And I said, well, I want to charge 100. How can we make that feel like value? And what we did, we came up with, and we called the package the £100 haircut. So you could come in on the beginning of December, have your haircut, and then anytime you were going for drinks with the girls or an office party or being taken out for a Christmas meal, then you could come in, you could have your hair blow dried for nothing. And so we built that into a package. And limited it, so we only had 10, sold them all in November, so we had £1,000 before we'd even picked up a pair of scissors. So you could do the pricing first, you could come up with the price and then say, how do we make that feel like good value? Or we look at it from the other way. So basically what we're looking at is, there's a formula in the training which is around frequency of visit for that service. We multiply that by what we would normally charge, and then we build in something that takes into account that increased ability to upsell, and we figure out how much it's worth to you to have the loyalty of that customer. So basically what I'm saying is, let's say I'm going to go into Caroline's salon. Okay, Caroline, I'm going to commit that I won't go anywhere else for 12 months, and I'm more likely to take upsell. How much is that worth to you? And we would put that together. So like I said, it's got to make financial sense. The other thing that we did do, though, is we had a loyalty scheme in the salon, and we stripped that out for members. So if you were part of the membership, you couldn't also accumulate loyalty points, and that was worth about 10%. We could take that 10% off straight away, and it made no difference to the bottom line. So look at the other stuff that's going on in the salon as well. You don't want to get to the stage where your members are becoming unprofitable. But certainly it's not around discounting. It's about extra value and exclusivity in my salons.
So for you, with that first package there, again, it's that added value. You're going to have the ability to come in if you've got a party night, if you're going out for lunch, and you can just book that blow dry. So it's that added value, which I'm all for. I don't like discounting personally. I think it devalues the service, and it makes it much harder to have a profit, especially if the discount outweighs the costs and takes you to a break even, or worse, a loss-making adventure.
Well, what you're doing is you're training your customers to pay you less and less.
Absolutely.
And that's not what it's about.
people then will hold back with that. I had a facial for 50% off, so I'll just sit back and wait until the next time you do that discount, and that's when you get people coming back in. Absolutely. And with the reciprocity, I use that a lot in my training, and part of what we do is looking at, it's all about that sort of, if you were invited to a party, you feel indebted that I must now return that favour and invite you. And we can use that same system with how we work with our clients, so that clients can feel that, I owe you one, and I'll do you a favour. I use it a lot within how we do referrals. And so for you use it then with the upsell side of the client that's coming in. Client, I also think as well, when we purchase things, it triggers part of our brain that makes buying anything painful. And if they've paid already, then they have less pain. And so they're not then inclined to look at whether it's an added treatment or a home care to take away with them. There's less pain. They don't feel they're spending as much because they're not seeing that whole figure, because they've forgotten about what they've already spent. And certainly I found when I did packages or course sales, because I had hair and beauty, if we sold a course of particular facials, then over that term of that course, we could bring in all of that home care that they needed. And they felt less, like, oh, it's a lot of money to be paying out, because part of it had already been spent and it gets forgotten. And I think I love the idea with the memberships that you have that ability to upsell, and people, like you say, feel really comfortable in taking it. So for you, upselling is a big part of how you're working.
It would be rare that a member leaves without buying something extra on the day. I would say we're pretty much 100% rate on upsell.
Fantastic. I mean, that's just, again, an amazing benefit to having that membership program in place. If you've got everyone always taking, you're increasing their average spend, you're increasing their loyalty if they're using something at home, which just has that whole roll-on effect within the salon. So then the next question I have is, because I know obviously you do work on this, so I wanted to ask, for those obviously who are watching and who are interested, because I'm a great believer, if someone else has figured out the formula, then why walk away and try and figure it out yourself if you can gain someone else's knowledge? And you do have a course on how to do this. So tell us about how that works. Now, I have done it, and I want to be clear, just so everyone knows, I'm getting nothing in kickbacks or anything at all, other than I wanted to share this because I do believe it's something that is important for our industry. So I just wanted to share that so everyone knows there's not some hidden agenda. I believe that if someone's got the answer, then, why go and try and figure it out on your own? So Phil, how does your training work?
Okay, well, I'm gonna start with how it used to work. It used to be that I would so it's online. It's based on an online learning program, and it used to be that the program would arrive in your inbox, and then you would take yourself through it and go away and build your membership. And that's not how it works anymore. There's a lot more support in there. The program's called Memberships in a Month, and the idea is that we start. The next program will open on the 1st of July. And by the end of July, your membership program will be ready to launch. Now, maybe you're not ready to launch on the end of July. That's fine, but over the course of that month, you will have everything you need. So it's 4 weeks of content, and that's drip fed. So you're not going to open up the program and be instantly overwhelmed. In week 1, we do some goal setting. We figure out exactly what it is that you want from your memberships. There you go. That's the one. So we figure out exactly what it is that you want from your memberships, and we sketch out your membership program. Then in week 2, we're all about pricing. So we go through that pricing formula to make sure that we're taking into account the increased loyalty, taking into account the smoothing of the spend, but also putting something together that's profitable for the salon. And we've got a formula that we work through together on that. And we also talk about payment methods and how you're going to be collecting your payments. And there's a few options around that too. Then week 3 is the kind of legal bit. And even though I can't give legal advice, I give you my sign-up agreement so that you can use that as a basis for your own. It's not a template. So like I said, I can't give legal advice, but it goes through those key points that I've mentioned in a lot more detail, and my own agreement is there. We also talk about commissions and the way that you're going to reward your team, because you're going to have to come up with something slightly different around that too. And then in week 4, we go through the best way to launch your memberships to your customers, and we talk about the marketing of the program as well. And then all of that is supported. So I have a group coaching program called Salon Accelerator, and as part of memberships in a month, you also get 3 months of Salon Accelerator. And Salon Accelerator, every month we have a Q&A session where you can bring any question around memberships or anything else. So all of that's supported with that group coaching program as well. So you get 3 months of that. And then there's 2 mini courses that are on there as well. I appreciate that going through this training is going to take a bit of time. So I have a program called Do Less, Achieve More, which is all about delegation and deleting the stuff that doesn't count. And there's a load in automation is there in there as well, which is my favorite. So it's going to free up some time so you can do the training. And also we need to get your team behind you. So there's a little mini course in there, which is about holding brilliant team meetings. So all of that's put together. It's all backed by my guarantee. And the guarantee is that if at the end of the program you don't feel that you're ready to launch, I will coach you myself until you are. So you're not going to leave this program without being able to launch. You have to do the work though, and the technology is very clever. It will tell me if you haven't done the work. But you have to, if you go through the videos, attend the calls, and you're still not ready to launch, then I will coach you myself until it's done. So you're not going to leave this program without a membership program ready to go. Now, obviously, we're going to start with something relatively basic in that month, but it's enough to get you going. And it's a really exciting program. I think this last weekend, we had 4 salons all launching their programs all at the same time. So there's a bit of camaraderie in there. There's people in there that have already been through this process, and there's a big spread of different salons as well. So obviously my history is hair, but we've got beauty guys that are putting stuff out there as well. And I've seen nail clubs, I've seen tanning clubs, there's all sorts of memberships going out there as well. So there's a real pool of expertise in that Salon Accelerator group. And then officially this didn't launch until the 12th of June. So I haven't even got a fancy sales page. All I've got is a checkout. But if any of your guys wanted to sign up before we launch, so the regular price is $347, and I'm taking £50 off that if you sign up before the launch date of the 12th of June. And then the bonus courses are in there ready to go. And then the memberships in a month content arrives from the 1st of July. So it's a very self-contained program that literally gets you from absolutely nothing in place at all right the way through every stage of the game with my support as well.
And I just think that's just brilliant. It's so, I think, like I say, why go and try and figure out on your own how to do it if you can work with someone who's already worked out the formula, ironed everything out, knows the pits and the troughs, and you've got that person on hand. So I did twist Phil's arm a little bit over the weekend with sort of can't we do something? Because I know when I spoke to him, he was like, I'm not starting until July. And it's just like, oh, but, if people are excited and are interested, then, can we not put something in place? So if it's something that interests you, we'll put the details up in the comments. And so you can go and have a look or contact. I'm sure Phil will be happy to answer any questions if you're not sure if it's going to be right for you. But I just love the fact that it's simple, easy steps which take you through everything you need to know. And if you still get to the end of it and you're still not completely confident and happy, then you just pick up the phone and Phil will walk through anything that you need assistance and help on. Because like I say, I do believe that memberships is the way forward for ensuring that we're not in that cycle that our industry has got itself stuck in so many different salons where we're not making profit. We have those peaks and troughs which have a massive impact on how we perform, and just being able to pay ourselves. It doesn't need to be like that. I'm a great believer, our industry just needs to tweak and change a few parts of how we work, and it will make a massive difference to people's income, people's security, and just reducing that stress, like you say, of the, the VAT's coming and the rent's coming,
Hmm.
and how I'm going to pay everything. So, is there anything else you would like to share on memberships whilst we have some time? And if anyone who is listening has any questions, do feel free to pop them into the comments, whether now or later on, and we'll make sure that we do answer any specific questions. You mentioned, actually, I'm going to ask you something. You mentioned something there a little bit about how from nail salons to tanning salons to standalone beauty only salons are using the same system. Can you share anything sort of as to how well any of them have been getting on, or what sort of packages they tend to focus on? Is anything you can share with that sort of different areas from hair to our beauty partners?
I encourage, because the program is memberships in a month. There is a limit to what can be achieved in a month, and trying to come up with something elaborate that's going to involve lots of services and get very complicated is not going to be realistic. But actually, I don't think that's what we should be doing anyway. I mean, even in my own salon now, our basic membership is unlimited haircuts. That's it. There's nothing else around it. I try and encourage people to, if you can, then to build in something unlimited. It's a lot easier to sell. It doesn't mean that people can come in and have unlimited hair color, which is going to be damaging. The consultation is still king. So you're still not going to be doing, just because someone's a member doesn't mean they don't have to be skin tested. Just because someone's a member doesn't mean we're going to do anything that's not right for their skin or their health or their hair. So it's still to a professional standard. But what I encourage people to do, and particularly on the beauty side, the memberships that I've seen work better, built around one service or one bundle of services. So a nail club is superb. If you can build something around application and soak-offs or refills, and put that together in a membership where people know what they're going to spend every month and never have a bad nail day, I mean, that's an easy sell. So I don't like seeing memberships that are overly complicated. Again, I'm going to make a big generalization. The beauty guys try and overcomplicate things, and I have to kind of pull them back a little bit and say, remember that opportunity to upsell. If you keep building in all these different services, you're going to have nothing left to sell.
Closes the limits down, doesn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. And, for example, I was coaching one lady who was putting a nail club together, and she said, but nails are 25% of my business. There's all these people that aren't going to buy into it. That's fine. These aren't supposed to be for everybody. Particularly in year one, I don't think we should be trying to, I would much rather you built, let's say, a nail club and a facial club, and people can sign up for both clubs if they want to. But I wouldn't try and put those two together. I think you're actually going to get less over the year. So keeping it really, really simple is absolutely key. The hair clubs that I've seen have been, I would say, the easiest programs to build and price, but the ones that seem to be selling most are more on the beauty side. They're doing a brilliant job. I'm very proud. Got one lady who really struggled with the service side. She couldn't find something she wanted to do, so what we did was build some membership around time instead. So people bought a certain number of minutes for service. It only works if your pricing is right.
That's a great idea.
I thought it was beautiful. And the only thing she didn't do, which I encouraged her to do, was to let people roll the time over. So if you didn't want to come in this month, but you wanted to bank that and have a luxury facial the month after, let's do that. And she didn't want them rolling over. She didn't want it accumulating, which I thought would have been an interesting opportunity. So there is a way that we can get memberships into every business. Sometimes it's not immediately obvious, and we have to do some brainstorming on that inside the group or in the Q&A. But I haven't got to the end of the month without somebody having something that they were happy to put out there. And, when I used to let people self-study, it just felt a little bit overwhelming and they weren't getting around to it. Now everyone's doing it. They get to the end of the month and they're ready to launch. So we're going to see a lot of memberships this year. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, me too, because I just, like I say, I love that idea of that time one. Because if I look at it from having beauty and hair, if I look at it from the beauty side, I could have it that I'm going to use a certain amount of minutes to get my nails done. There's enough time to perhaps get my pedicure done, but then I'm going to have an upsell because I'm going to still want my facial. And the following month, if I use it to have my facial and there's enough time then to get my nails done, well, I'm still going to need my pedicure. And so that opportunity. But like you say, interesting if they had that rollover, because it would mean I'm still getting the money each month.
Hmm.
And then I have perhaps a day where that person comes in and just spoils themselves rotten.
Absolutely.
But I've
Absolutely.
had
Let it
time.
roll over for a couple of months and have a whole
Yeah,
half day to yourself. I think that would be wonderful.
yeah. And I think
But
still
the
I've got,
skin clubs are going well, though. The facial clubs are going really well.
yes,
The nails, if I'm honest, I've done the brainstorming and the work on a lot of nail clubs, and there's been 2 or 3 times when we've had to walk away from it because they're not pricing the nails properly anyway.
yeah,
And you've got to make sure that you're building it on profitable services, otherwise it's not
yeah,
going to be profitable memberships.
yeah,
There's been a couple of times when we've said actually maybe not nails, and we've had to look at something else.
yeah,
But the time one I thought was really interesting on the nail side, because a lot of salons are undercharging on nails. Whereas if you kind of said, okay, it's going to be on time, then suddenly we've got a tool to price properly, maybe for the first time on nail services. So I thought it was really interesting.
No, that is a real interesting one. Well, as we haven't got any questions here at the moment, we can always see if they have any later on. If there's nothing else that you want to add and anything you can think of that would be useful before we finish, and if not, we will then look to finish up.
I think I'm going to leave you with that. Just keep it really simple, keep it niche, and enjoy it. Have some fun with it.
Excellent. Thank you all very much for tuning in and taking time to watch. I hope it has been useful, and perhaps, Phil, we can look at linking up and doing something together, because this has been fun and it's been really enjoyable. So
Cool. I'd love that.
thank you. Everyone have a fantastic day. We will put the links below, so then if you do want to look at joining into the next course, which is coming up soon, you've got the opportunity to. And the one thing I would say to take advantage, if you are going to start it for July, then you've got the time now to block out some time in your weeks into July, so that you know that that is scheduled in, you've got your training, and then you know that you're going to actually get it done. And then come August time, you can start putting this baby together and ready to launch, which will be really exciting. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a fantastic day, everyone. And I will hit the button that says end, and we'll carry on waving.